Hello and welcome back to AdaPulse, the community-funded news channel keeping you up to date with all the news and emerging projects that are in and around the Cardano ecosystem. And remember, because we're community-funded, there is no coin shilling or paper motion. We're not even here to discuss token price. We're here to just break down information and deliver it to you in a way that's easy for you to understand. Like today, it's quite a complicated one, but we're going to break it down, make it nice and easy. It's decentralizing Cardano's networking layer. So we're taking an in-depth look into that. But like I said, it'll be easy to understand. And this is by one of our newer writers that have been onboarded to the AdaPulse team, which is Sooraj. And that's only thanks to the community funding we get from you guys. And Sooraj has also got his own YouTube channel. So I'll include a link in the description below so you can check that out too. But do remember to click the like button, hit subscribe, and hit that bell button so you can get notified as soon as we've got content available. And remember to share far and wide. We're an educational platform, want to reach as many people as possible. But I'm Josh from ATM Stake Pool, your presenter for AdaPulse for today. Let's just crack straight on with the article. Now, Cardano has always had a really strong commitment to decentralization. It's always been one of its core principles. It's what we all signed up for. Now, decentralization, as I've said in many videos in the past, it's kind of quite misunderstood. But it's in reality, it's divided into three pillars. So check out this image. And you can see we've got networking, governance, and block production. Now, Cardano has already achieved complete decentralization in block production. So, box ticked. Now we move into the decentralization of the networking layer. So in this video today, we're going to be talking about the evolution of Cardano's network connectivity model, the current system, and the up-and-coming P2P network. Introduction to Cardano's networking layer. Now, a networking layer is a physical infrastructure that combines nodes and their interactions into a unified system. Now, the network distributes information about transactions and block creation among all the other sort of active nodes in the network. Now, Sooraj says there are two types of nodes in Cardano's network, but I would argue and say there's three. You could say I'm being a bit finicky there and say that two are kind of the same, but I would say there's three. Now, check out this image. I've shared it quite a few times before, so let's look at it in a bit more detail. So you see you have the core nodes, which are responsible for producing blocks. Then you have the relay nodes, which are responsible for broadcasting the blocks directly from the block producer to other relays and other nodes. But then you have passive nodes, which aren't receiving blocks directly. They're just receiving the same information like block production and transaction, and they're just spreading them out far and wide. It's like what you have in Daedalus, because Daedalus is a full node wallet. So it's not receiving any blocks or anything directly, but it's just transmitting them. But like I said, you could argue that that is actually the same as a relay. It's just a relay is receiving block production directly from a block producer. The Byron era, Cardano's federated networking layer. Now, when Cardano was launched, the Byron network connectivity model operated in a federated state. So that is all the block producers and all the relay nodes that connected. I think there was about 200 relays, and they were all 100% maintained by Input-Output Global, or IOG, to the rest of us. Now, this was a centralized networking layer connected by a static configuration, so it wasn't changed, defined in a topology file. Now, I mentioned what a topology file was the other day in a video, but I'll mention it again. So as an SPO, I have my block producer, and that feeds the blocks that it creates into my relay. And within my relay, I have what's called a topology file. And that topology file is just basically a list of other relays and nodes that it's sending my information to. So when I make a block, it goes to my relay, and my relay is sending it to the other relays that are around the world. It's my relays are also receiving information from other people's relays. So think of it as a bit like Chinese whispers, except the information does not change. I'm sending it somewhere, and I'm also receiving it from somewhere else. Now, but the federated system that IOG were using was static. So they had this topology file, and it didn't change, and that's the way it was. The Shelley era, Cardano's hybrid networking layer. Now, the Shelley era was the transition in Cardano's network connectivity model, moving away from the federated model of the Byron era to now a kind of hybrid model. So check out this image. In the hybrid model, nodes are connected to both federated relays and other SPOs, so state pool operators relays, like I mentioned earlier. But the connectivity is not fully automatic. Instead, it is partially constructed manually, relying on the centralized tool of a topology updater. Now, as I mentioned earlier, my relays have a topology, but when I put the information in, it's static. So there is a tool that the guild created called the Topology Updater. And what that does is refreshes those relays every 24 hours for me. Now, it only has trusted relays on there. So when you sign up, you don't get to be a relay on the Topology Updater straight away. Because I need to feed out, but I also need it coming in. And what the Topology Updater does, has these reputable relays in a big bucket, and they're all mixed up, and every 24 hours it just recycles. However, what you've got to bear in mind is once I connect to it, it only changes when I restart my node. So that topology updater can update every 24 hours, but if my node is running for a year, my topology has remained unchanged. So here's another image for you. This is actually from Portal, showing all the different connections. It's pretty cool. Now, the network topology is referring to the arrangement of nodes. So let's take my block producer, for example, which I like to keep secret, still needs incoming connections from my and outgoing connections for my blocks to propagate. So this is where my relay comes in. As I said, so my block producer is only talking to my relay, and my relay is spreading it out as well as receiving it from other places. Now, back in the old days, not a lot of people know this is only for us OGs. During the testnet phase, P2P actually worked. We didn't need a topology updater. However, things changed, and so the guild created what's called the topology updater. And that is what creates all the connections for all the nodes, for the staples. So, so they're only reputable nodes. You've got to be running your node at tip for at least 24 hours before you can join and stuff like that. So you're only reaching proper nodes. And that regenerates every 24 hours. However, like I said, that's only on the boot of the relay. So if you want it to change every 24 hours, you've got to shut down your relay and restart it every 24 hours. So it only takes the information once. Mini protocols. So let's start with this image. The network functions through a set of mini protocols, which are modular building blocks that allow for communication between nodes. So each mini protocol implements basic information exchange, such as sharing blocks and informing peers of the latest block. A multiplexing layer acts as a central crossing between mini protocols and the network channel. Now, the topology updater was only developed as a temporary solution until Cardano's networking layer transforms into a P2P network. Like I said, it worked on the testnet for a while, so I don't know what went wrong, but for some reason it stopped working, and then the guild introduced the topology updater. But I'm not sure I agree with Sooraj here. I think he's got this a little bit mixed up. He's claiming that in the case of a failure of the topology updater, which is a centralized service, would result in the failure of all topology updaters on the relay nodes, which in a way is true. However, if my topology updater was to go down, my node is still running, and the topology only takes effect when I boot my relay. So it can all go down, but everything would still keep running. It's only if I went to restart it, I'd have a problem. But that problem would be short-lived because I could easily just reach out to other SPOs and get their relay information, or even look up their relay information and just connect to that, and it would all be fine. But his claim is to ensure the functioning of the network, that it's important to have a well-designed topology and effective communication between nodes through the mini protocols. So in that way, I agree, but it's not the be-all and end-all. It's not quite exactly how it's described. And now I believe Sooraj is also confused over the hybrid model and what the hybrid part actually is. So his claim that it's not fully decentralized, as we're relying on this centralized tool, which is the topology updater. So although that may or may not be the case, he's forgetting something that probably only OGs remember, was when Shelley launched, there was something called the D parameter. Now, the D parameter was basically the amount of blocks that were being produced by IOG. So in the Byron era, it was all fully controlled by IOG. So we were at D0, where it was all completely open and every pool was the same as every other pool. But also going back to this image, you can see IOG are talking about IO run relays. That's part of the hybrid model, nothing to do with the topology updater. So I definitely don't think that the reliance on the topology updater, this centralized tool, means that the network isn't resilient or as secure as it could be. But anyway, none of this really matters because with the up-and-coming P2P network, it aims to get rid of the topology updater anyway. The P2P network. So I've got another image here. The main goal of the P2P network is to enhance the flow of information between nodes, remove the reliance on input-output run relays, and I guess, as Sooraj points out, remove its reliance on the topology updater. Now, the P2P network will have 4 components. So check this. The P2P governor, the connection manager, the server, and the inbound protocol governor. The P2P governor. So the P2P governor is a critical component of Cardano's upcoming P2P network. So that's responsible for peer connection management, which is essential for ensuring, the best performance of the network. Now, the P2P governor classifies the network's peer nodes based on their relative activity and established connections into 3 categories. So you've got hot peers, cold peers, and warm peers. So to break it down, hot peers are nodes that have a connection that is being used by all 3 node-to-node mini protocols. Cold peers are existing nodes, but they haven't got any network connection at all. And then you have warm nodes, which have an established connection, but only used for network measurement without implementing any of the sort of node-to-node mini protocols. So this image may help. The P2P governor will manage the P2P connection based on activity and established network connection to ensure the best system performance of the network. It will determine which peers are beneficial for connection purposes and which should be in the cold, warm, or hot sets, so maintaining a target number for each set. So these automated activities will help build and maintain a connectivity map of the entire network, simplifying the connection process between the peer nodes. The connection manager. So the integration of the connection manager with the P2P governor will enable bidirectional communication between peers and enhanced node-to-node communication without affecting performance. Remember, like I said, when we talk about the topology updater and the topology file itself, it's only going one way. I'm just sending it one way, and other people are sending stuff to me. Now here, we're talking about the 2 actually talking to each other. The server. The server will accept connections and perform dynamic rate limiting to control the number of requests that are sent or received by peers. And so this ensures that the network functions smoothly and efficiently. Now, like with the topologies, the way we use it right now, you don't want to have too many peers. If you have too many, then you're just going to get overloaded, and that's going to slow your relay down and increase your block propagation time. And you may actually miss blocks because of it. The inbound protocol governor. So the inbound protocol governor will run and track the state of each remote peer. So that's whether it's cold, warm, or hot, and inbound mini protocols. So this component is, plays quite a crucial role in ensuring the smooth functioning of this new P2P network. The gossip component. Now, this part really does add to the decentralization of the network. So, much like a load of teenage girls at a sleepover, the P2P network will also have a gossip component. But what it actually does is help discover nodes that are not registered on chain. That's what we've got to do with our relays. We've got to register them on chain. So what this does is going to enable, like Daedalus, which we've said before, is a full node wallet to connect to relays from SPOs and vice versa. So, and that doesn't just make Cardano more resilient, but actually that does affect the decentralization of the blockchain. The current state of P2P. Now, this is discussion that's been going on since testnet, so way before Shelley launch. But P2P, the capability is actually there in the current version of the Cardano node, which is 1.35.5. But it's still under production, and the use of P2P capability is not yet recommended by IOG. But I personally would say, fuck IOG. I listen to what the guild says, and if the guild says you can go to switch to P2P, that's when I will personally do it. Conclusion. So it's pretty obvious that Sooraj and I disagree on certain aspects that are what making Cardano centralized or decentralized or somewhere in between. But we do agree on the main principle here, and that is that the upgrade will make Cardano more decentralized and more resilient. But for me, it's nothing to do with the topology updater, whether that's centralized or not. It doesn't matter. We can do that on our own manually. We don't actually need it. But it's this gossip component, because what that is doing is including nodes, like Daedalus, because Daedalus is a full node wallet, and that is doing nothing apart from just transferring information. So it will massively, in my opinion, increase the decentralization of Cardano. And as far as I'm aware, correct me in the comments below if I'm wrong, but it will increase the MAV factor, which is the minimum attack vector, which is currently at around 20. Because you've got all these passive nodes now including that aren't doing anything else. They're just transferring information. So in that sense, it's still a real big step towards making Cardano even more decentralized platform that still operates on the principles of transparency, security, and efficiency. So that brings us to the end of the article. Sooraj's article can be found online if you want to see what his real views on that are, because obviously I've added my own little bit. But do remember to click the like button, hit subscribe, and hit that bell button so you can get notified as soon as we've got content available. And don't forget to share far and wide. We're trying to educate as many people as possible here, so help us by sharing it as far as you can. But I'm Josh from ATM Stake Pool, your presenter for AdaPulse for today, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.